Hello and welcome aboard another episode of the Talkin Texans podcast. I am Paul Gallant of ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. He is Texans beat reporter DJ Yeneme of ESPN proper. DJ, Houston Texans OTAs 2023 are underway, and you were out at the first practice in shorts of the season earlier this week.
Yeah, I was. It was good to be back out there, mainly because we get to actually see football and like we can stop all these like hypotheticals of like, I mean, it doesn't always completely die, but like the hypotheticals of, well, can the Texans win 10 games this year? It'd be a shocker, or are the Jaguars going to go undefeated in the division, or all these hypotheticals that people can, because more time passes, it increases the opportunity for people's minds to create fake scenario, right? Because at this point in time, everybody outside of like maybe like 2-3 teams think like their team could possibly, do something major this year. And this is the part of the year where we start to realize, okay, can they or can't they? Even though OTAs, we could talk about this later if it matters or not. I think it does slightly, just a little bit, not fully. But again, like, we finally get to dive into actual football and we can dissect the things that we're actually seeing have to do with football and not draft numbers and draft slots and trade charts and everything that, I don't really care for it because I'm not a GM, nor do I ever care to be a GM. So
we get to use our eyes and we also get to watch ball. And you know what, guys? We know ball, okay?
Right.
Maybe none of us played at like a high level, but I mean, have we played it all before? No, not at the level that anybody cares about. I'm just kidding on that front. So the big news coming out of OTAs, DJ, was something that you saw firsthand. And I know a lot of people are freaking out about it right now, which I get. I would encourage them to get off the ledge. Davis Mills, not CJ Stroud, the second overall pick, is getting the first team reps at quarterback. I want to make it clear, this does not mean that Davis Mills will be the starter for week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens. I do get why people are freaking out about it a bit, though, DJ, because I think a lot of people just want to turn the page from the past couple of years. And Davis Mills is one of the few remaining holdovers. I feel bad for Davis Mills that he's sort of at the center of all of that, but I do get why fans maybe feel this way, seeing that Mills was out there with the starters.
Yeah. Well, that surprise, not really. I kind of anticipated that. I remember like already having a story pre-written that CJ Stroud wasn't with the starters. So I kind of anticipated that it'll be Case or Davis, just based off of just how a lot of teams operate, where in OTAs, rookie quarterback, they don't necessarily always jump to give them all the first team reps. I mean, when I was covering the Jets, Zach got all the first team reps, but that was because the guys behind them was Mike White and James Morgan, who all three of them at that point during the 2021 spring had 0 NFL snaps, like in actual games. The most it was with Mike White in preseason. And then James Morgan, the year before, he got drafted to the Jets in 2020 when there was no preseason. We just hop into games because of COVID. But there's a lot of scenarios where OTAs where the quarterbacks, the rookie, first round pick, like a high draft pick, may not run with the ones initially. I know in Carolina it's kind of on and off, where Bryce, I remember seeing that Andy Dalton was getting a lot of the snaps, but then I rest of the world that Bryce was getting a lot of first team reps. So it's early, you know what I mean? Like I'm dissecting. I think it was like 4 plays on team with the first team for Davis during team session, the 7-on-7 4. CJ had more reps overall, but it was always like 2s versus 2s. It was never 2s versus 1s. So it's all part of the maturation process. Now, if it's like week 3 of training camp and Davis is still starting, now we can hit a lot of panic buttons across the board, because there's just a whole bunch of variables that could possibly be at play. Does the coaches have to know what they're doing? Are they developing CJ right? Is CJ even good? Because at that point, now you can ask real questions like what's really going on. But again, like it's early, it's May, because again, since 2021 when they got the new CBA, in the sense of that, first round picks get locked into a contract when it's fully guaranteed, and it isn't that much. Before that, guys drafted a high basically reset the market, like Sam Bradford or Matthew Stafford, Reggie Bush, et cetera. The list goes on and on. When they finally switched it to, there was a set number that obviously wasn't a high number. 11 out of the 17 quarterbacks since 2021, 2011 that were drafted in the top 5, 11 of them started week 1. So, again, it's early. Again, it's something to keep your eye on, but again, it's early. It was a tech OTA.
It's consistent, too, if you look at what D'Amico Ryans, Nick Caserio have been saying, both leading up to OTAs, but also actually at OTAs. I'll start with D'Amico Ryans. Ryan said that he didn't want to burden anybody with being the immediate face of the franchise. He said he's not asking for a guy to come in and be the savior for this team, to come in and put his head down and work. Making that quarterback that's the second overall pick, put his head down and work by starting with the twos as he picks up the offense. Makes sense. He also said Ryan's did the process with all our players is to come out, improve, and get better each day. When the fall comes, as you were talking about a moment ago, DJ, that's when we'll talk about starters. Technically, August isn't the fall. Technically, training camp is late summer, but you get what we're trying to say here. And then we go to, maybe talking about Stroud and Will Anderson from Nick Caserio's perspective. Caserio often says about rookies, they haven't done anything yet. And while he acknowledged they've been productive players in college, the reality is they're starting over. And that's sort of what OTAs are for a lot of young players in the NFL. It's basically, after rookie minicamp, a chance for you to continue to slowly learn whatever team's playbook you're now a part of. And that is a process. Learning concepts is a process. Some of these guys will never pick up those concepts no matter how hard they try. Maybe they're too complex. Maybe the coaching isn't good. Maybe they just don't have the ability to do it. But the baby steps with CJ Stroud, I just want to say one more time, it's not something to freak out about, because it does feel like it's rather consistent with everything that the people that are making the toughest decisions with the Texans, Nick Caserio, D'Amico Ryans, have been hinting at.
Yeah. I mean, that's all they've been hitting into now. I mean, even when at the end of the draft, when we asked Nick Caserio, do you think like the roster, do you feel like you guys accomplished what you wanted to in the offseason? You basically said, I don't know, but we have to see it on the football field. He didn't want to go into the optimistic approach of, we got better. I know some coaches that would have said that, but he really just shies away from that. Like, he wants people to prove it on the field. Are we truly better? Are we going to be a better football team? The offseason, we're not going to win the offseason headlines and things of that nature and try to win the offseason. We're going to prove it on the field. And I think that's what that message has been, and what's going to continue to be. Again, like CJ ran with the twos, Tank ran with the twos. I think Will ran with the ones, but I have to double check. We'll see again next week. But again, like, I think Xavier ran with the threes. But again, like, it's early, right, where guys just get slotted into certain spots, and then they have to kind of go from there and work their way up. So
I'll admit, I don't want to see Mills ever again. But DJ, I will say this. I felt like Mills got a lot of crap last year, and that was a guy that still showed up to work, unlike Brandon Cooks. This is a guy that I don't know what he's ever going to be in the NFL, and if he's ever going to be more than a backup. I would lean towards no, but I don't want the guy to roll over and die and to give up on his career because he had a rough year last year. And hey, all right, if he makes the competition a little bit tougher, great. And I would say from just speaking about it, he's been thrust in a really uncomfortable position. And I think that a guy like that, who clearly is not at the same place as far as his status in the NFL as CJ Stroud, even though Stroud is just joining it, I feel like he's handled it pretty well. So again, not thrilled that's how we open up OTAs, but I do hope that Davis Mills gets to fight for his football life.
Yeah, I mean, I respect it. I mean, at the end of the day, it is his career, and he has to do whatever he can to preserve it and extend it as long as he possibly can. Me personally, nothing against Davis. It's just the way I view developing a young quarterback. You give that man all the reps he can get with the first team against starting caliber NFL defenses, and you let him go through the fire and those growing pains. Because with the second team unit, like the receivers you were throwing to outside of Tank, I don't believe, again, obviously it's early. I don't believe that,
some guys aren't there too.
Right. So like, I'm just like, let's speed up this process because we're going to reach this point where he is the starter eventually. So why not, give him those reps with the starting unit and allow him to build chemistry with those guys. You know what I'm saying? But again, it's early. Won't press any alarms. But again, I'm big on give that guy every single rep you can. Because he's learning, especially since he's learning a new offense. And he's learning a lot of different things that the offense is going to require of him that he didn't have to do at Ohio State. So that's why I'm like, hey, come with the ones and just roll from there. Because again, you take a guy number 2 overall, he is going to play. So do everything you can to get him ready, unless you feel like he's not ready. So that's something to monitor. Where do they feel in terms of readiness? Because again, like if you do throw a guy out there a little bit too early before he's ready, that can destroy his confidence. But I also am of the mindset of, well, if that destroyed his confidence, then he was never ever going to be the guy.
You got to watch him. What did CJ Stroud look like?
He did have some plays where he ran, so he showed us some athleticism. Obviously, I don't think he's not gonna be Justin Fields,
right?
But he looked fine. You know what I'm saying? Like in terms of playing within the structure of the offense, going through his reads. If the first option wasn't there, hitting his check downs. He had obviously the longest pass of the day to Tank Dell, where he layered it over a defender over the middle of the field, right in front of another defender coming in to kind of sandwich. It was, basically sandwich Tank. But he was able to layer it over, throw some touch on it, and it got to Tank. It was the longest play of the day. I think like 20-ish yards, something like that. So he looks fine. Again, it's early, but like I do take a lot of notes and of OTAs because I know with this tree, the 49ers tree, like they kind of go after OTAs a little hard. Like they kind of push it, you know what I'm saying? 7-on-7. I don't really take much from 7-on-7. Every quarterback looks good on 7-on-7. If you look bad, if you look bad during 7-on-7, then that's when like bells ring. You know what I mean? If you look good, cool. But if you look bad, now I have to, if it's consecutive, obviously everybody can have a bad day. But yeah, no, he looks smooth. He's operating the offense at a smooth level. Again, early, can't really take too much.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So one thing that did stand out was, his connection with Tank. I think, especially on team drills, or maybe team and 7-on-7, he threw the ball to Tank 4 times. I think Tank caught it 3 times. One of them, I don't know if it was batted down or dropped due to physicality or whatever, but either way, 3 out of 4 got the ball to him. So it's gonna be interesting to watch this development. I try to chart everything with CJ Stroud. Now I have to be a lot more meticulous because I'm not gonna write every day about like what he did at OTAs. Like it has to be like a long range of one. I'm charting everything that he does just in case if I have to do like a longer piece or things like that. So I'm gonna really be paying full attention to how he looks.
It's going to be a lot more difficult to determine whether or not he's making good on how he built himself as a ball placement specialist until, as you said, DJ, 7-on-7s, when you don't have a guy in your face putting his hand up, it's hard to really say anything about really anyone other than the wide receivers and the defensive backs and linebackers that are involved in those 7-on-7s. That is a drill more for them, at least as far as like what you can actually take away. When it comes to the quarterback, if there's nobody running you down, I mean, a lot of these guys, they're in the NFL for a reason. They can make the majority of those throws. How do you do it when a guy's who's 300 pounds and 6'4" is chasing you down? That's really how we determine whether or not you're a damn good player.
Yeah. I mean, again, like it's all about, okay, can you play under pressure? And I think that was one of the criticisms of Stroud from scouts was how to, sometimes when he played when there's pressure around him, so like eyes would drop sometimes, he just wouldn't be as accurate under pressure. And at the end of the day, that's NFL life. You got to be able to, make plays when there's people around your feet, when you're feeling the pressure come off the edge, things like that. Do you have pocket presence? Can you still make the throws that require it under pressure? Because again, like, your first read's there. If you got to go see, you got a good receiver, that guy's going to be open. What can you do when that guy isn't there? Can you go through your progressions efficiently, find your checkdowns if things aren't there, and keep the offense on track? So again, that's when we'll really know. So that's what I'm more or less looking forward to seeing as time progresses. Because you can still determine some of that even during OTAs based off of how they operate when there is bodies around them, even if there's no pads and obviously they're not getting tackled.
Was there anything about the offense that jumped out? And I ask it from this perspective. Look, there's no offensive line, real offensive line play. It's all we're grasping at straws here. We're taking whatever small things that we have right in front of us and making them
Right.
into maybe molehills essentially, or mountains out of molehills essentially. But
Right.
um, obviously you go from Pep Hamilton as offensive coordinator under Lovie Smith to Bobby Slowick as offensive coordinator under D'Amico Ryans. I know per Bobby Slowick, the offense is built on precision with an emphasis on being in unison, on time, and in rhythm. And Davis
Yeah.
Mills, for his part, when he was asked about the offense, he said that they're pushing the tempo a lot as quarterbacks. They're being aggressive with timing and anticipation and are really trying to emphasize to players on the edge that we're playing fast and we're going to run by people this year. So, as the guy with the boots on the ground at practice, what did that look like, I guess, compared to whatever minimal takeaways we would have been able to, come up with at
Yeah.
Pep Hamilton OTAs in 2022?
Yeah, nah. When he talked about anticipation, that's probably like one of the biggest requirements of a quarterback in this offense. I feel like it's in a lot of offense, but really in this one where you gotta truly trust that you're gonna throw the ball for the guy who gets out the break. Because again, when it's the NFL, so the windows are tighter. You can't wait for the guy to be wide open or
Right.
even appear open. Like 'cause sometimes them coming out of their break, you throw before that and you throw anticipation. Obviously, you don't throw a little bit of touch, you don't throw a complete heater, and you kind of throw into a spot and you're expecting your guy to be there. There's a lot of trust. That's why CJ he mentioned like I'm trying to get my timing down with all my receivers because again, like a lot of this is based on being able to throw before a guy is open. And throw when you're getting out of while they're breaking down, trying to get into the breaks or while they're cutting. Because if you wait, now you're bringing the defense with your eyes directly to your receiver. So what I saw a little bit of was, it was early, but you didn't really see that because again, it's OTAs, and I'm talking about both sides, where first team, second team, because the defense was pretty much, they won the day, I guess, quote unquote. Especially the first team. The first team defense, like the secondary was on point. I remember Jimmy Ward had a really, really nice breakup
Ooh.
down the sideline while guarding Robert Woods. It was a really nice breakup, athletic, jumped up, broke it up down the sideline again. Um, and I remember there's another play where you could tell they're trying to go for a shot play to Woods, and Stingley was all over him. I think like Robert might run a post, might have been off a play action or something like that, and then like Stingley was try for try right with him. So, again, it was day one, so there wasn't really if that first option was there, they all were going to the check numbers. I know I saw my comments saying Davis Mills still ain't changed. Well, yeah, I guess you can say that, but CJ was doing the same thing. So, CJ just got one that was over 20 yards. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that's what the offense is going to be. And I think whether CJ Davis, that's something they're going to have to specialize in, trust that when they hit their back foot, they're going to throw into a spot and the receivers are going to win and they're going to get there. Because if you hold the ball and you're waiting for your guy to look open, good luck, especially in this offense.
Robert Woods, you mentioned a moment ago. Not a great year for him in Tennessee, at least based off of what Tennessee Titan beat writers want to have you believe. I know this is a guy who, when he was in LA, I thought was one of the more underrated players in the league. So I don't know what happened
Yeah.
between LA and Tennessee. How did he look out there? Again, it's in shorts. Got to take everything with a grain of salt, but that was our first Robert Woods in action sighting of 2023.
Yeah, yeah. You got my man over there sneezing. But yeah, he looked good. Like I kind of know what we're gonna get from Robert. The question is, like, you're gonna get consistency. You're gonna get good route running. You're gonna get good blocking. You're gonna get some yards after the catch. You're gonna get good hands. The question is, can he get back to what he was during his time in LA? I don't know if you know this, but I was actually surprised when I saw this. Let me see if I can pull up the stat. It was from 2017 to 2020. Robert Woods was ninth in receiving yards. I was like, wait, what? From 2017 to 2020, he was ninth in receiving yards. Like, not a touchdowns. The touchdowns weren't there. I think he only had the number he was at was pretty low. But yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, so he was ninth in receiving yards, 27th in receiving touchdowns. But the number that really, really jumped out, he was second in yards after the catch.
Wow.
Yeah, like he had 4,000 yards receiving. and then yards after the catch, he had 1,777. I'm like, okay. So, like, can we get it might be tough to get back to that because, again, like, he was playing with Jared Goff, and yeah, he played with Jared Goff during the time. And at that point, that's when Jared Goff was producing at a high level,
Yeah.
putting up a lot. Remember, they went to the Super Bowl, things like that. And obviously, we can't expect CJ Stroud or Davis, but most likely CJ, to year one play at the Jared Goff level that he was at year 2, 3, where he was going to Super Bowls, or even year 4, even though they missed the playoffs. I think Goff almost threw for 5,000 yards that year. I think he had like 4,800 or 4,600. He just had very little amount of his touchdown interception ratio wasn't that good, but he put up yards. So the question is, can Robert get close to that version? You know, I was talking to him earlier today, and he basically saying that like he felt healthy last year. Like I asked, like, were you healthy last year? Like, do you feel like you were still recovering? Like, no, he said by week one, I thought I was good to go. Obviously, like going to year two, like, I feel better. There's more confidence in that knee, but by week one, it's not like I had a lack of confidence. I felt good. Um, he's really happy that he's going to have more opportunities in this offense. He knows his offense very well, having played under Sean McVay, who kind of runs a similar system to what these guys are going to run, because they're all from the Shanahan tree. So, yeah, I think the question is, can Robert get back to that 2017, 2020? Right, you can even throw in 2021 because he was on pace to get 1,000 yards that year. Um, because he was averaging 61.8 yards per game, times that by 17, that's 1,050. So again, he was on pace for 1,000 yards, and the way Matthew Stafford was playing that year, and along with Cooper Kupp in that passing attack, he was probably going to get that. You know what I'm saying? So that's the question. Can we get back to 2017, 2020, even 2021 version versus the 2022 version where they're a run heavy offense, they're running everything through Derrick Henry. Tannehill misses time. He's catching passes from Malik Willis, Joshua Dobbs. So will his production return back to what it was before when he was with the Rams in this offense? That's to be determined.
Fingers are crossed. You're hoping for a Jerry Hughes kind of
So,
renaissance. But
yeah. He
I
got his
think,
own Jerry's though.
yeah,
That was out of nowhere.
yeah. So maybe that'll be the case. Look, these are the kind of free agency signings that you make, and you're not expecting the world out of them. It's if you end up being good, it's a move like that works out. So we'll see some of the other receivers that were out there. I know Noah Brown we finally saw out there. John Mechie the third not out there yet. Hopefully that'll be something we see next week at OTAs. Lots of slot receivers. I saw Brooks Cabina put up a tweet with all the slot guys based off of their snaps. I guess just the last time they played. Noah Brown had almost 400 snaps in the slot last year with the Cowboys. Tank Dell, I guess, had 546 at Houston. Hutchinson from Iowa State, the other rookie, he had 174. And Mechie, his last season in 2021, he had 236. So smaller, shifty, quicker receivers, which does seem to be consistent in an offense built on precision. And maybe with what we're seeing right now, again, OTAs, so everything with a grain of salt, but a lot of quick passing. That does seem like the kind of group that you want. Though I do wonder if, as the season progresses, we're going to be wishing that they had maybe more traditional outside wide receivers.
Yeah, but in this system, it's all about, can you play all three spots?
True.
And that's one of that's what makes a receiver extremely valuable to this offense, which is why the guys that you mentioned, a lot of them had snaps in the slot, including Hutchinson, who can play both. Robert can play both. Tank obviously is going to be more of a slot guy, but Mechie played both. Noah Brown, even though yes, he played a lot of snaps in the slot with the Cowboys, but he also played on the outside too. So can you do both? And that moves the needle for this coaching staff in this offense. So again, as early as time progresses,
Yeah.
we'll see. Yeah, say we'll see what the exact defined roles are. I think Nico will probably be mainly on the outside, and I think Tank will be mainly on the inside. But it's gonna be a lot of competition there because this coaching staff has no loyalty to anybody but probably Robert. Yeah, probably Robert, because Robert has when he has legitimate guaranteed money. Everybody else Tank they drafted, cool. Obviously they drafted Hutch, but Xavier was drafted in the 6th round, so it's a little different. But this staff didn't draft Nico, didn't draft Mechie, didn't draft. Obviously, they signed Noah Brown, but he's on a 1-year deal. It's not that much guaranteed money, so it'll be a lot of competition. I'm really excited about that.
You mentioned some of the guys on offense. We haven't talked about Dameon Pierce going into his
Yeah,
2nd year.
yeah.
DJ, I saw a funny tweet by Brooks Kamina. Apparently, Dameon Pierce added to a powerful base. Now, I don't know if that means he's talking about calves, quads, or a little donk, but is Dameon Pierce a little bit bigger?
Yeah, he's a little bit bigger. He still had it's funny. I think the second player of team. He had the longest run of the day. Yeah, you know what I mean. I think Damian in this offense should be able to put up even more numbers because it's basically wide zone. He has really good vision. He's gonna let's say they go outside zone left, outside zone right. He's gonna pick a gap and he's gonna put his foot down and he can get north and south. Damian doesn't do too much playing and dancing around and stuff like that. He's getting downhill. So I think he's gonna be able to put up a lot of numbers. I think the offense is gonna run through him, and if you can get, I don't think Damon's gonna get drafted high in fantasy. You can probably get him in the 3rd, maybe 4th round. That's somebody I would for sure try to get because the O line is going to be good. Shaq, LT, Titus, Juice, Kenyon Green. That's a lot of 1st round or 2nd round picks. Actually, that's 4 1st round picks and 1 2nd round pick. So there's a lot of pedigree there, a lot of talent. Obviously, Damian has a lot of talent. So I think, he's going to be able to put up some legitimate numbers in this. And again, with Bobby Slowick, he's going to commit to running the ball. The majority of guys from the Calhoun tree, they want to commit to running the ball. The only guy that didn't was Mike McDaniel, and that's because he had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So, but everybody else, they want to commit to running the ball. They don't want to get too pass happy. They want to be able to make everything mirror and look the same, from their run action to the play action, to the run game, all that. So yeah, I think it was one carry that we saw, but he looked explosive. And I fully expect that he's going to be able to get over 1,000 yards this year. Because he was going to do it last year. He
Right.
should be able to for sure do it this year, as long as he stays healthy. And Bobby Slowick isn't a moron, which I doubt he is. So as long as Bobby isn't as long as Bobby isn't a moron and Damian stays healthy, he should get over 1,000.
They also got Devin Singletary, who runs pretty angry himself for a small
Yep.
guy. Dameon Pierce,
Yeah.
it's funny because what a goofy personality he has. If he were somebody that was a bit more of a hardo, I do wonder how insufferable would it be for linemen and linebackers during OTAs when Dameon Pierce is trying to run people over, because we know how violently he runs. But I'm very much a fan of Dameon Pierce. You mentioned, DJ, a moment ago, the offensive line. The one, I guess, absence that's somewhat noteworthy, Kenyon Green, who had arthroscopic knee surgery this offseason. He had a shoulder injury on Tuesday. And again, I don't want to throw up I don't want to sound like I'm panicking here. All I'm saying is, damn, they keep piling up, and you want him to finally be ahead of schedule or ahead of the curve. So this does have me a little bit nervous about what kind of Kenyon Green we'll be getting by week 1. Again, the good thing is we're only in late May.
Yeah. So you hit on the head. We're only in late May, so I'll just, as D'Amico said to my brother Brooks, hold your horses. So.
You mentioned D'Amico. His defense, we're very intrigued by what it's going to look like compared to last year under Lovie Smith. We know Lovie Smith's got a lot of defensive acumen. The defense, it was rough. And obviously, you got a lot of new pieces. You're bringing in Corey Littleton, Denzel Perryman, linebacker. Christian Harris is moving to outside linebacker. And to you, the secondary jumped off the screen. You described it as airtight to me, with a Derek Stingley who looks a lot bigger than he's been in his first year in the NFL.
Yeah. Based on just how Derek looked, I'm Derek looks like a number 1 corner. You know what I mean? Like obviously he has to go on the field, he has to do what he has to do. But I remember when I went to OTAs last year when I was covering the Jets, and I remember seeing Sauce. And I remember going on a podcast with my friend Will Parkinson, and I was like, yeah, the Jets didn't have a talent like that. Like in 2020, well, 2021, whatever. Like they didn't have a talent like that. And like it was kind of clear in 2022, like, yeah, Sauce from a talent, physicality standpoint, stature standpoint, that stood out. And that's how I left 2020. That's how I left OTAs while looking at Derek, like, oh, okay. Athletically, Derek looks athletically, size wise, Derek looks much more refined and like ready to attack this season and remind folks why he was the number 3 overall pick and why he was, an All-American as a true freshman and why, the foot injury, all that's in the past. Like he looked movement skills wise, size wise, speed wise. If as long as he's healthy, even though he's not really injury prone, I don't know where we got that narrative from. Because like in reality, like he only has 1 year where he actually missed a lot of time. Last year he just got shut down.
There's just weirdness at LSU, but we didn't really know the 100% details of any of those stories.
Exactly. So like, 2021, fine. You want to say he's injury prone, cool. But last year I wouldn't really go that far. But anyway, as long as he's healthy, he's on the field, he's playing. I think we're going to get a Pro Bowl caliber type cornerback out of Derek Stingley, especially in the system. And based off of how he looks, how he's moving, and just his overall talent that he has, like this scheme accentuates those type of guys. So yeah, he's what it looks like right now.
That's exciting to hear because obviously last year we wanted more out of him. We also wanted more out of Kenyon Green. So we'll see if they're able to bring it again. It's May. How many times are we going to say it's May or it's early in the offseason over the course of the next couple of weeks on this podcast?
Well, the next time we record it, it'll be June. So it might be June after we're done with OTAs.
All right, so that's the next thing we're going to say. It's June. Okay, well, the next practice is the last day of May that is at least open to the media. You will be out there. It is next Wednesday. So last question before we hit the road. What are you hoping to see at that OTA practice?
Probably just more efficiency within the offense, not necessarily relying so much on checkdowns. That's all I care. That's all I really care about is just that, not relying so much on checkdowns. Quarterbacks, trusting the offense just a little bit more and trusting what they're seeing and just letting it rip. So it's again, it's May. At that point, it's May. So you can take these chances, you can take these risks, let it rip. You feel me? So that's just more what I want to see. And then I want to just see will the D line, like how the O line and D line, how they battle against each other. And that's about that for me.
He is DJ Biename. You can follow him on Twitter at DJ BIENAIME. You can also just spell it out. It says it on the bottom. But in case you didn't know, listen, some people don't know. Just spell it out.
That's what I do every time I call somebody and they're like, all right, what's your name? Daniel. What's your last name? BIEN-AIME. I don't even waste time saying Biename because they're not gonna be able to spell it. They're just not. So I'm not gonna waste my time. I'm gonna just spell it every time.
What's funny, I remember before we did the first podcast, and I didn't want to ask awkwardly how to pronounce your last name. So I went online and I looked up a bunch of videos that you had done. And this is what made me laugh. Everyone was too scared to try to pronounce your last name. And we're talking like 4 videos.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the guys was like, DJ, and I was like, oh, I know what he was thinking. He was thinking what I was thinking. It made me laugh.
Yeah, man, that's been my whole life. Bienami, all kinds of pronunciations for
DJ Bienami? Are you related to Eric?
Oh, I had a coach one time ask me that while he was recruiting me.
Oh, Christ.
At the University of Oklahoma, I'm like, you can't read? Like, it's not even spelled the same, man. You know what I mean? Like, I can understand if I say it and you think that. You sent me an email, I'm responding back to the email. Why are you asking me if I'm related to a man? Well, we don't even have the same last name. It's not even spelled the same, He didn't respond to me after that. After I sent him my transcripts, he didn't respond to me. Don't know why. But he did it here. The Oklahoma coach did the same thing to Jaron. So they got a funky program going on over there.
That's classic Oklahoma. On that note, he is DJ BNMA. I am Paul Gallant. You can hear me weekdays 10 to noon, ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. DJ, this was fun. We'll be back at it again next week with another Texans OTA to talk about.